Hey everyone, it's Kid Hero. I'm waiting for my mentee to get over here, that way we can start working on some projects. In the previous video I had discussed some projects that I'm kind of doing in my spare time. One of them being my mentee's dirt bike right there. It is a Chinese clone. It's called the Magician. It's a dual purpose enduro dirt bike motorcycle. He bought it off of Craigslist, I believe, for $120. We're going through and making sure everything is correct on it, and just to kind of show you what I do when getting a project like this, and especially if stuff has been messed up by the previous owner, how you can go about either determining if you can fix it or if it's a lost cause. This one in particular has a wiring issue, and I was debating in between either doing a complete custom rewiring job. Fortunately for this model motorcycle dirt bike, the wiring harness can be actually purchased pretty inexpensively off the internet. I found this one on Amazon for $32, so that's actually what I'm going to end up doing today. And this thing has been a real, I won't say an absolute nightmare, but it reminds me of projects that you start and you kind of tend to regret. The thing that I am pleased with is it seems like it's going to be overall pretty straightforward to repair it, but just looking at the original stuff, I didn't even do this. This was whoever else's prior deal, and I'm assuming that they lost the key, so they replaced it with another key to something else. So they cut this off, cut off the original key ignition, which is this right here, and then spliced in the new key ignition, which is this right here. So obviously these wires are a mess. I have to go and track where these wires are going to make sure it's proper, because I don't even know if the previous person, either if it was a guy or a girl, wired this correctly. We're missing ground wires and mounting points for like the shock coil for the spark plug. It's not grounded to the frame, and of course on the back side a bunch of stuff was hacked off. So we have, I'm assuming, what is the tail light as well as the rear turn signals. There may also be a wire for the license plate bulb, but this thing is a mess. What I did is I ordered a new replacement wiring harness, and we're going to get this installed today, and hopefully if everything goes to plan, it will be the first time he ever rides a dirt bike slash motorcycle, so I'll be teaching him how to do that. So okay, so this is what we got for our $32. We have our brand new wiring loom. It actually comes with a key as well as a new spark plug. We have our ignition coil that connects to the spark plug as well as the ground. We have our rectifier, which balances and recharges the battery along with the magneto inside the engine. We have our CDI box, and then we have our, which not only connects to the battery but also connects to the starter. That way we can start this bad boy up. What I'm going to try to do initially, just to test this out, I'm going to try connecting the new wiring system. We're going to leave the old one in place. I'm going to have the new one just kind of loosely laid on top. I'm going to ground everything where it needs to be grounded, and we're actually going to try to start this thing to see if it'll start just on the wiring harness alone. If by chance it doesn't start using the wiring harness, then what I'm going to try to do is I'm actually going to replace the other components with the newer components that I have. Again, we'll attempt to start it from there. Hopefully, best case scenario, all it takes is the wiring harness swap, and then this thing will be ready to go. If by chance we still run into issues, we'll have to sort through them as they come, but I'm pretty optimistic that this will work out. Okay. So if you're going to try to do any sort of wiring project, what I would highly recommend, regardless if you're a master or if you're a beginner, What I would recommend is first take your new wiring harness and spread it completely out. It gives you an opportunity to not only see what type of connections each one of them has, you can briefly inspect them to make sure that all the connectors have what they should have. Say for example, this one has 4 wires to it. I can look inside the socket and see that there's actually 4 connectors in there. You want to make sure that you're not missing anything or nothing is damaged. Definitely look if there's visible fuses that you can see into. Make sure that the fuses are still good. And overall, if there's any point where you think you're either confused or concerned that you're missing something, the best thing that I would recommend, and I'm gonna look at you, the best thing that I recommend is label everything. Label everything on the old bike and label everything on the new harness. That way there's absolutely no confusion. The reason why I recommend that is because it's easy to forget. We're only human. And this is so weird, like my leg being this way with me turning this way, it almost looks like my leg is broken. So as I said, lay your harness completely spread out, that way you can check all the components. Make sure that all the connectors are there where they should be. And my biggest recommendation is label everything. Label everything on the bike that you're working on. Label everything on the old project. That way you have an understanding of what connector goes where. If you forget anything as far as what needs to be plugged in where, if you label it just with a little bit of masking tape and a black magic marker or even a pencil. A pencil's good, magic marker is great because a pencil will definitely wear over time. If you rub up against it, it'll eventually fade. You may not be able to read it. But definitely label everything you have. It will save you so much more time and headache if you end up forgetting, you walk away and you're like, oh, what is this? And then you have a brain fart, and then now all of a sudden you're spending an extra hour tracking down what that 3-prong connector went to. The other recommendation that I would give is look online for as much information that you can regarding the project that you're working on. I have 4 different sheets here. One is the basic installation schematic that has all the correct voltage for all the wires, all the connectors. The thing that's useful off of this is it gives me an idea if I'm trying to provide anything in addition to the wiring system, which I'm not going to do, but this is still a good reference point for making sure I don't overload anything. The second one that I'm using is the actual wiring loom, which is this one right here. This one is great because it says colors off of which wires are what colors. That way when I'm trying to install this one into that one, gets rid of all the guessing and having any accident shorts or oops moments. All of a sudden now I short-circuited or cross-wired something and then my wiring harness gets a burn in it. All of a sudden I'm trying to repair a brand new wiring harness, or maybe I blew out a fuse and then now I have to go to the parts store to get a replacement fuse. Another thing that runs into these projects where you end up wasting your time. You do something accidentally and next thing you know you're spending 30 minutes or so going to the parts store, then you have to wait in line because there's other guys there that made the same oopsie moments or they forgot something. You're waiting 20 minutes in line, you end up coming back, and then you wasted an hour right there. The next thing that I would recommend is you look for a physical picture of what you bought off the internet, and it has all the components labeled. Most of this stuff is actually universal for most of the old style classic cars. I recommend finding a picture of what you're working with. If you're unfamiliar with the exact parts, it has an arrow pointed to each thing, and say for example for number 10, if I had no clue what number 10 was, I could look it up. Number 10 is pretty easily identifiable if you've worked on cars or motorcycles. That's actually the horn. But again, if you're unsure, get more information than you need. That way you can properly prepare yourself before you undertake any projects. The final one that I have is the manufacturer schematic. The manufacturer schematic will generally show you everything as it's attached on the motorcycle. It'll even show mounting locations. So for example, let's find a easy one. For the rectifier, which controls and changes AC, DC, DC, AC through the magneto, that way you can recharge the battery. It points to its natural mounting point using the bolt. So I know how this is installed and its location on the bike. This keeps me from having to drill new holes and use janky hardware in order to hold the manufacturer's stuff on the bike. I highly recommend all of these, but ultimately it's your project. If you're comfortable with how you do things, you do it how you want. Just be careful, and we can discuss any oopsie moments that you have. Leave a oopsie moment that you had down in the comment section. I like to hear about things other people are working on. I'd love to hear from you guys. And while you're at it, smash the like button. And if you came to check this out and you found it interesting, please hit the subscribe button. Hang out a while. Let's build a community of nice people. That way we can all talk and BS and hear how things are going. So with that being the case, let's go ahead and get into this project. You just connected the positive from the battery to the starter solenoid, just like that. What I'm going to need to do is I'm going to connect the other wire that goes from the solenoid to the starter onto this other point right here. Make sure you double check it. Yep, that's correct. And there's 3. You have a washer, a lock washer, and a nut. Tightening it down, make sure it's in a position where it's relaxed, that way you don't crimp your cable. Take your socket. And then go ahead and tighten that down, just like that. Pull that boot over the top, and then that part is good to go. Now for the next part, we have a cable. This part, this terminal on this black cable goes to the battery. We have another terminal right here that's connected to the same wire. This needs to be grounded to the bike. And the bolt that we want to get to, I'm going to try to zoom in if I can see it. I can definitely see it. I don't know if the camera can see it. And it's this finger right here. Right there. This finger right here, this is where the bolt I need to take off. And that black terminal needs to connect to this, that way it's grounded to the bike. The one in order to remove the ground from the frame is an 8mm. It was kind of tough to get to if you have big hands. You may want to take off either the exhaust or use a really long extension, but it's mainly this one little tiny 8mm metric bolt. Fortunately, we have a replacement one because whoever owned this previously, this either got ripped off when they wrecked it or it got torn off, so this is obviously not usable anymore. And again, it's going to go back into that same spot. Again, we want to make sure that we have clearance and that the wire isn't caught up on anything on the old loom. That way we can take the old loom off without having to uninstall this wire. Unfortunately, my mentee still isn't here yet. I'm assuming he's still in class. LCB giving me a call, so we'll see what happens. It's a good point for me to try to do some testing before he comes over. But ultimately, since this is his, he's still going to have to uninstall the old one, the old wiring harness, and get the new wiring harness bolted in. But I can at least try to do this and give him an explanation. That way he can learn from this. That way when I am long gone, if he decides that he wants to be able to do this when he gets older, or if I'm too busy, when I explain it to him, he'll either understand or be able to do it himself. Okay, so we have our stuff grounded. We have all our connections connected up as far as the major component to get the starter, to test it to see if it's working. We will still need to hook up the wires to the rectifier. That's not a huge deal. Obviously we don't want to run the bike for long periods of time, else it'll drain the battery because the charging system isn't properly connected. What we are going to try to do is we're going to ground this other wire to the frame, and then we are going to connect the boot for the spark plug to the other one. So we're going to pull this one off like that, pull this one off, we're going to put this one on, and that spark plug isn't tight, but we're going to tighten that spark plug down, put that on, ground these two wires, hook up the battery, and then we're going to actually see if it'll start and run off of this new wiring component. If it does not start, then I'll need to do some troubleshooting. I'm using a 18mm socket. We're just going to make sure that that spark plug is on there snug, as we are going to find some starter fluid. And when using starting fluid, a word, I've heard ghost stories and I've seen people almost kill themselves using this stuff. Only use a squirt. It doesn't require for you to keep constantly squirting and squirting. I will show a display of what happens when you squirt too much of this stuff in your engine and when it finally kicks over.
What happened?
So you definitely don't want to mess around with this. Ether is extremely flammable, even more so than gasoline. I'm just going to do one squirt. Make sure that the key's turned. Okay, we're going to test in 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're going to turn the key again. Test in 3, 2, 1. Nothing. The poop don't work. Okay, let's inspect everything. Let's check our main fuse. Make sure we didn't blow anything. We have a loose wire here. Okay, so we've been testing this out. The starter definitely wants to turn, so that's great. We're just not getting spark to the spark plug. I'm going to re-look over the wiring diagram to make sure that there isn't anything that would cause any issues. Check all the ground wires, make sure everything is completely connected, because there's a terminal somewhere that's not causing any spark to go to the spark plug. I connected the old spark plug to the actual coil, and if you connect it to a piece of metal, you should be able to see a little bit of electricity, kind of like a tiny blue lightning bolt shoot. I didn't see that, so we're definitely missing spark. If I can resolve that problem, this thing should start up no problem, so I'll be right back. Okay everybody, what I ended up figuring out was, because I don't have the wiring to the magneto slash stator off of the main loom, it's not allowing me to basically complete the circuit for the spark portion of the engine. So I'm actually trying to open up the driver's side, if you want to call it that, of the bike, the left side of the bike, to see how the wiring is done, because out of the actual engine block I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 coming out of the block, and I need to narrow it down to 5. Okay, these I do not need. Okay, these 6 wires right here actually come from the gear shifting indicator, so I do not need these 6. That's absolutely perfect. That saves me a lot of time and a lot of trouble. For the time being, we are going to just stick that up there, that way it's out of the way. But the 5 I will need are 2 yellow, blue, white, green, and red and black. And we're going to use these 5 right here and attach them to the new wiring harness. Okay, so we need to connect this to this. And of course, if it could just plug in, that would be what we would want. Unfortunately, it does not. Let's see what we have for colors. Got a red and black, that's good. We have a white, that's good. We have a yellow, that's good. Okay, everything is the color that it should be, so technically if I pull these out and put these other ones in, it should work as intended. Okay, I don't know if the last take was recorded because my camera ran out of battery. Basically what I did on these terminals were in this 6 socket female adapter, and each one of these terminals has a little divot in it. I'm going to try to zoom on the center, on the back of these. You see that little divot right there? When you stick those into the socket, that divot pops up, kind of like what a door stop would on a door. That way it keeps you from pulling it out or it going shut. I had to use a pair of safety scissors to kind of get in there. The new wiring harness, which I got this off of, it does not fit the current engine block socket because it's a 6 into a 4, and we have one wire that is actually a male insert. So what I'm going to end up doing, just so we can test it since all the colors match, I'm going to plug all of these into the appropriate socket on here as far as the colors. I'm going to have to use a butt connector in order to connect the red and black wire, which is this one, to this male one, which I don't have a connector to. And then we're going to try to start it again, and hopefully we're actually going to see something. So if we look at the back of this female socket right here, we can see that bottom left is green. We're going to take green and plug that in like that. Bottom right is blue white, like that. Top left is white. Top right is yellow. Those 4 are plugged in. And then of course we have the red and white. Using some alligator clips is just as easy to do. The main thing is make sure that the exposed connectors aren't coming in contact with anything, that way I don't have a short. And we got it to work, so the wiring is straight, so now all I need to do is bolt everything, remove the old stuff, clean out the carburetor, put the gas tank back on, and then we'll have actually a riding bike here, so making progress.
Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Nothing much.
What you doing?
Nothing. Just sitting.
Just sitting.
Yeah. Playing games.
Playing games? What?
Yeah.
Who's all there with you?
Me.
Oh, the troublemaker. I got you. 2 troublemakers. Well, I'm glad that you both are well. Hello.
Hello.
I got an update for you.
It doesn't work.
Loud. Oh my goodness, it is so loud. It is.
Can we come there?
It still needs some minor things to it. Most I can do immediately, but you'll need a new battery because this one isn't good. But Other than that, it's ready to ride basically. So.
We'll be there shortly.
Okay.
Okay, see ya.
Later.